All right. Thanks everybody for coming out to my RaceDay Scoring webinar. There's still a few people trickling in, but we're just going to get started. So if you have any questions along the way, please use the chat option in the bottom right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar, and I'll try and make sure I check up on that to see if I can answer that as I go through. So today what I'm going to be going over is the updates that we've made to RaceDay Scoring recently, as well as going through some of the updates we're going to be making in our upcoming alpha release, and any future features that we still need to add that are going to be addressed at a later time. And then what I'm going to do is give you a walkthrough of what we have currently, go through all the different screens we have and show you how they all interact with each other and give you just a brief overview of how the software works if you aren't familiar with it already. Please do try and hold questions until later, and if you have any specific questions about setting up a race that you're trying to score, feel free to email me. My email address is avery@runsignup.com. A lot of times it's easier if we can go and do a one-on-one rather than try and walk it through in front of everyone else, so I appreciate that. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, so just an overview of RaceDay Scoring. The strategy is to create a Goldilocks alternative to the current scoring platforms that are out there now. Our first goal is to start with an architecture that is powerful and flexible enough to handle complicated race setups, and our second goal is to make that software simple to use for simple races. So we're hoping that when it's complete, we'll have a product that advanced timers will not be limited by, new users not scared of, and is able to be customized to meet the specific needs of each timing company that's out there. So this is a very important thing for us because we understand that all races and all markets need something different. So what we're trying to build is the core functionality, so it's very customizable, and that each timer will be able to make this product their own, essentially. And the way we're doing that is by going...
Can I add something?
Bob wants to add something.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't keep still. The kind of other big goal is to create an open platform. So it works with any, and I didn't see, you probably say that in the next slide, don't you?
I don't know.
But it's really to create an open platform such that you can customize it, plus that it works with all other different types of software and hardware. So you're not locked into one particular hardware or chip or timing hardware brand, and you're not locked into even RunSignUp as a registration platform or RunSignUp as a results platform. So it's all going to be open hooks everywhere, every which way.
Definitely. So we already have built out from the scoring side integrations with a majority of the chip systems that are out there, and if you do find one that we don't integrate with and you have it, we'd love to have your input so you could test it out and have us integrate with that chip system. But yeah, on the integration side for registration, currently we just have RunSignUp, but in the future we will be adding all sorts of integrations as they become available to us. All right, so just a couple of words on how we're doing our versioning. We're currently in alpha release cycle right now. And what that means is that the software is not really intended for commercial use in the field, but we'd like your input as we make these incremental updates. So once we're ready to release a beta version of the software, and that should be within another month or two, we'll ask you to take it out into the fields and give us some real life testing. But until that point, you have to kind of understand that the software is not ready for public use yet. So if you do try and use it, in the meantime, we don't recommend that it's to be used as your sole means of timing, but definitely bring it out, set it up alongside your current scoring software, and try and get it to work so that you can give us some feedback on it. So we're hoping to have full functionality built out for the beta, at which point we will continue to add or improve usability until we are ready to release a production version sometime early in 2018 is what we're hoping to do. Oops. All right, so the recent updates, this is a smaller list. I've condensed it down a bit. We added a bunch of new incremental UI updates as we go along. We're just continually making the interface a little bit nicer, a little bit friendlier. We now have the ability to send raw reads and the raw read counts over to our scoring software, essentially, from the readers. And what that will let us do is allow people and timers to troubleshoot better. That way they can see what is actually coming in from the readers themselves, and then we'll also be able to determine why a read was selected or ignored by your filtering. We now allow question time entry without hours. That was a specific thing that someone needed. Sync process cleanup was we are continually making the API syncing of participant data more robust and faster. We now default participants to a single event if there's only one in there. So if you're adding participants in and there's only one event, you don't have to select that field from the drop-down if it's only one. Sorting participant timing location reads. This is on the participants screen. It lists out the reads for this person. We didn't have it in order, so we sorted it. We now have a big new feature, report categories, which allows you to add tags to all of your reports to make them into custom categories. We also do an automatic categories if you're adding overall or age group reports or winner reports. So I'll show you that later on. We now allow duplication of existing reports, and we allow column sorting and deleting, as well as editing of reports. So now it's a little bit easier to use if you're adding your own reports and customizing them and trying to build out a full set of reports for a single race. So what's coming up next? We're going to be able to very shortly import and export races. This is really cool. So this will allow us, first of all, to be able to support you guys better so that you can export us your full race and we can import it onto our system to be able to help you troubleshoot. But what's even really cooler is that Roger of the race director is going to be able to export a race director file and get the skeleton of the race set up in RaceDay Scoring just by exporting it and importing it. So what we've done is made all of these definitions inside of RaceDay Scoring opened up so that we can write to them. And this is going to be truly very cool once we're able to import in a race from an external software and have it be pretty much set up. There are going to be some things you'll have to do, some contingencies that you'll have to figure out and make adjustments for. But the majority of the setup will be done for you if you're able to export from another software provider.
Give some examples of the type of stuff that we're importing.
Yeah, so we're importing things like events or divisions in the race director. We're importing age groups. We're importing if you have things like start time. If you have, let's see, what else we could. I don't know if we could do participant data if that goes in with it or not, but.
Well, that's not quite open up yet, but eventually you will be able to do that.
Yeah.
And because this is Bob again. Sorry for jumping in, but because it's going to be so open, like this is going to be a mechanism that, like any third-party software where you're defining the race, like another registration system, another results system, another scoring system, you'd be able to output a nice file and suck that right into this, and you've got your race all defined.
Yeah, the big things are going to be mostly the race setup in terms of your categories, your age groups, your winners, how it's going to be scored, your segment definitions, things like that. We also are going to be adding, right now we don't have the ability to import participants from a spreadsheet or a CSV. We're going to add that in. Right now you have to add them one by one.
Or from RunSignUp.
Or from RunSignUp, yeah. Combined reports, which are very important for most timers. That's just basically like an age group report where you have multiple groups of results together in one. Like you have your male overall winners, and then your female overall winners, and then your male 19 and under, and then your female 19 and under. Right now we're only able to do a report of just a single group of those. So we're going to be creating a system to combine reports together into one single one. The next big thing is going to be a customizable live dashboard. This is something we haven't really begun too much work on, but what it's going to do is replace the landing page in your race. And the idea here is that we'll be able to pin widgets with for different things, such as recent finishers across a timing location, or a common report that you use a lot. And we'd also be putting into it some useful data, like maybe number of finishers you have, things like that. And basically, once we get started with this, we're going to be adding different things and giving you the option so you can customize it to your liking, and hopefully making it modular enough so we can easily add new features as we see fit. And the next thing is we're going to be adding some more utilities for the participant data. So things like transferring and swapping bibs, switching event and mass, etc. Very shortly, we're going to be adding the RSU TCP/IP protocol. And what that is meant to be is we're going to be putting out a protocol for anyone who wants to write a chip system output stream type. We're going to be defining a single stream type so that anybody out there with their third-party systems wants to make some RFID systems off the shelf. If they can write to this protocol, we'll be able to integrate with it very simply. So working on that right now. We've already got some people who are really interested in this, so we're pretty excited about that. Things to come in the future, we don't have yet, and they're not on deck for the next update. Sending results to RunSignUp. We don't have this made yet. It's not too hard, but we are a little bit worried about adding it because we don't want people using it too much yet. We want to kind of make sure that we got it working before people start posting results. So it's kind of a strategic back burner item. Team scoring is something we need to add. It shouldn't take us too much time. We just haven't tackled it yet. And that we have the structure to be able to handle team scoring so that we can group together participants into a single scoring entity, is what we call it internally. And that will allow us to do things like reporting on teams. When we do this, we're also going to have to tackle some more scoring scenarios. So giving us the ability to assign points or rankings and times is something we still need to work on. Another thing we'll need to work on is the way we're going to handle series scoring. We've got a few ideas on this, but that's not going to be ready anytime soon, we don't think. But we have some ideas here, and we'll be in touch with everyone on the progress that comes there. Because we do know that a lot of you guys you have series that you do, and a lot of systems don't work too great, so we want to give you a solution there. Maybe in RaceDay Scoring, it may be more on the RunSignUp side of things, but we'll find out as we go. Oops. So right now we don't have the ability to create a RunSignUp race within RaceDay Scoring, or a race in general within RaceDay Scoring. So this is going to be something we need to add, because like I said, right now, if you want to time a race, you have to create the race at RunSignUp and then import it. We don't want it to be that way in the future, that's how it is right now. Bib assignment utilities. We're going to be adding a full set of utilities to do different types of bib assignment within RaceDay Scoring. So this will mimic the features that we have in the race director to do this. There's a lot of different ways that you guys like to manage your bib assignments, so we're going to be covering all of your use cases. Big one is master client mode, and the idea there is that the way we built our architecture for this app is it's built on what's called Node.js, which allows this program to run a local web server on your machine that can connect to multiple clients. And what we want to be able to do in the future is have multiple kiosks that can run in client mode that can have limited access to your master scoring engine. So you could add in entries from a client, or you could push results to a client. And basically what we'll have the ability to do is set up a local network of your devices so that you can score a race on your main computer and have all of these little client machines out pulling from this same database. And we've tackled this in such a way that it's going to be pretty easy and hopefully we'll be able to make it work really quick and really fast, and hopefully easy to set up for you guys. One thing we do need to add is the auto-saving of reports. We want to be able to have CSVs and HTML files or uploads to be done periodically so that you guys can just check a box and say every 10 seconds write this report to this location. Right now it's all manual. Another minor thing is report column visibility priority. We want to make have in your reporting to handle scaling to mobile. We want to allow timers to define what columns have the highest priority. So what columns should be shown or hidden as you scale a report width-wise. Just want to check and make sure I got no chats coming in. That's good. All right, so the next screen is probably going to be a little bit of an eyesore. I put together, wait, there we go, an outline. And this is probably not going to be very readable for you guys, but this is what I'm going to be going over in the following slides. So this is a little bit of a mess, so we're going to break it down and go through each section so you can understand how they all work, what they are, and how they interact with the different parts of the software.
How is that better than my picture the other day?
It was complete. There's no scribbles. All right, so the dashboard. Right now, when you click on the dashboard, there's not much here. Like I had said before, this is going to be something that we are expanding upon. The ability to pin live feeds of chip reads, reports and actions, as well as helpful race statistics. So that's going to be something in the future will be a little bit more exciting, and probably where you're going to be spending most of your time as a timer. The sync settings. This is a newer section of the dashboard or of RaceDay Scoring, and what this allows you to do is set up how you want to sync your data from your online registration. So if you have additional question responses or custom fields in your registration source, what you can do is you can map that in to RaceDay Scoring for use in your reports or use in your calculations of custom fields and things like that. So if you want to take one of these, right now what you do is you type in right here in this RDGo field, just type in what you want to call it in your database, and that way you can reference it internally for use in reports and such. We also have this disable sync option now, so if you're working offline and you don't want to get a bunch of error messages all the time, you can disable the syncing so that it's not attempting to sync every 30 seconds. One big thing is if you start up a new race, you do have to go into sync settings here and save sync settings in order to get your participant data. It's just kind of a temporary weirdness in the software. We're probably going to change that in the future. Okay, so in this area, yeah, for instance, you may ask registrants what their predicted time is. Then you can store this locally and use it to calculate a participant's predicted time offset to include in reports. So that's a good example of why I'd want to import some data from your registration source.
For example, this is Bob again. We did a predicted time race, so we put that field in, and then we did calculated fields based upon the real time of the participant minus the predicted time, and then did sorting and ordering of results based upon that.
Next tab down, and just so you guys know, we kind of ordered these tabs so that you'd want to go from the top to the bottom as you're setting up a race. The next one down is our timing devices. And this is the connection point to a timing device, what we call a timing device. This could be a chip system's middleware, TCP/IP output stream, or a directory that you're dropping files into. And so what we do here is we kind of made this a little bit open so that you can use it in many different ways. Most people will connect it directly over via TCP/IP or use it in the file type from their device type dropdown. So that's the majority of what people will use. Basically, timing devices, you can assign multiple timing devices to a timing location, and you can define a priority for them. So you can have a primary and a secondary, and the reason is we want to be able to provide you guys the ability to have a backup device. Like you might have someone just typing in entries into it or times into a spreadsheet with a bib number and just saying like, you know, if I missed a time, use the spreadsheet. If I didn't miss a time, obviously use the chip system. So in that case, you'd set up your chip system as a standard device type, and you'd set up your spreadsheet as a file as a secondary device type. And that would allow you to take the reads that you want, and then if you missed a read of the chip system, go to the backup system.
And we allow any number of backups, so you could have a primary mat, you could have a backup mat, and then you could have a time machine.
Yep.
So you could have 3 levels in that case.
So that is shown under the timing locations. Under the timing location section here. So when you go into the timing location setup, that's when you'll be able to say, I want to select these devices for my location at the start. Basically, you can pipe in any number of those devices into a single location to be used to generate times. So you should define a single timing location for each physical location where you're collecting times. You can associate multiple devices with each, and so you can use multiple sources to collect reads at the same physical location to score your race. So for instance, you might have a chip system as your main method, but you also have a manual backup that you'd wish to include at that location to consider. And on the next slide, you can set the backup device as a secondary priority, so the times are not used from the lower priority device if a read exists for that participant in a higher priority device. You can view scored reads for a specific timing location here. So if you go back, there's this button for each timing location you have, which will list out in real time the reads that have come through at that location. You can also do manual entry of reads into a timing location here, and we built out that functionality really well. We now actually can very easily score a race using the manual entry. We've made it so that as you, I can show you in here if you want, as you type I can click spacebar and it automatically sets to the current time. And there's some more things you can do as well. If you you can use Alt+2 through Alt+9 to set the current time for the next 2 to 9 rows. So that's pretty cool. It'll just set the current time to any number of rows with that shortcut. So it's actually a pretty good system for manually timing races right now. You can also, going back, set marker reads. And marker reads are kind of how we allow you to handle any incoming markers from chip hardware. So a lot of different chip systems will provide you a gunshot marker for any start times that you physically started on your devices. And what we allow you to do is to map those to any start times that you have set up in your event setup. So in this case, I had just a single gun time at this location. And I'm just going to say that I have all of my events here are using that same gun time. But you could have multiple occurrences of this gun time. And you could say the 10K was the first one, the 5K was the second one, so on and so forth. So again, that is in your timing locations marker reads. And you could say that occurrence 2 was actually my start for the 5K run. But yeah. Okay, next one should say The scored reads, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about scored reads, those are the selected times used at a timing location based on our filter settings. So when you set up your timing location, you have a variety of filters that you can enable. So things like bib range filters, time range filters, and basically whether or not it's a start or a finish or an intermediate timing location, it will either choose the first read or the last read scene. So what the scored reads are a list that's pared down from the raw reads. So this is why we said earlier we're going to be allowing you to see the raw reads as well, so that way you can take a look at how your scored reads were selected. Scored events are what we use to group together multiple events, and the idea is that many registration systems or many registration just portals don't have their events set up correctly for scoring purposes. A lot of times, for whatever reason, a race director needs to set it up a certain way on a different platform that doesn't necessarily reflect how it's going to be scored. So what we're going to do is have the ability to be able to add or group together multiple events into a scored event, so that you could say, you had a 10K and then you had a 10K kids pricing and a 10K firefighter group or something, and you want to put those all into one category. You can select multiple events to include in a single scored event. So within this, you can set up your start and finish location. So right now you can define different starts and finishes for each of your events. Also set your start times in here. Right now, it's just at the event level. We'll have down the road abilities to set it at participant level and other ways as well. Let's see if I didn't. Okay. Next item on the list is segments. This is, a lot of people refer to this as splits or laps or something along those lines. It's just how we calculate time. So by default, all races have an entire race segment, which is just the start to the finish for a specific event. So it uses your scored event setup to generate this entire race segment based on the start and the finish you selected there. By default, it uses the first occurrence on both. You can adjust this finish one if, for instance, you have a 2-lap 10K and you need to select the second occurrence instead of the first occurrence. You can add additional segments. What's nice is you can have them from any point to any other point in the race, and what it will do is it will automatically set up for you finish times and chip times if you have a start point automatically.
Back to segments, how would you utilize that in a triathlon use case, for example?
Yeah, so for instance, you would set up, you would have timing locations depending on how your setup is. You could have 3, you could have 1, and then what you would need to do is set up a single segment for each of the points that you're going to be reporting times for. So for instance, you'd be reporting swim, bike, run, as well as the T1 and the T2 times. So you would need 5 segments. And then you would need to set up your starting points and ending points to reflect your physical layout. Obviously, everyone times them differently. Some people will have people enter in the same device every single time and exit on another device every single time, and others will do it differently. So you'll need to work out the order of occurrences and at what points they're going to be going across. Next page is the age group page, which is not a pretty page, admittedly. We're getting there. So this is where you can add in age groups for each scored event. We do have the ability to do a quick fill or a quick setup, and you could say the range size is 5. That means that it's like a 5-year age bands, the starting age and the ending age, and then it'll give you a preview of what's going to be output if you were to do it. You have the ability to do male, female, or either. And either means it doesn't matter, just ignore the gender. I only want it to worry about the ages. So what's cool is that when you do these age groups, what it does is these are used by what we call listings. Later down the road, I'll show you. Listings are what categorize times together so that you can use those in reports. So this is automatically generating the background listings that are scoring your event in real time. Next section is another one that's not very pretty. We're going to be making it a lot easier to use in the future. Right now it's very programmatic, as you can see. There are generated fields, which are the result of using existing data to create new data on the fly. So, for instance, chip and clock time are good examples. They're created for you automatically using the participants' chip times or start times and finish times for each sport event. So if you go to the custom computed fields setup, there's a filter at the top here. If you click automatic fields, you'll see how our clock times and our chip times are actually generated for you. And then we're using this kind of pseudo, well, it is real code, but this code here. In the future, we're going to be making this a little more a lot of it more user-friendly, so that you can select.
You won't see code
no.
on the default screen.
Yeah. So you'd be able to basically view a list of all of the available fields to you, examples of those fields, and then put them in kind of a. It would look like pseudocode, or it'd be some way so that you can more easily use this. So. When you go to the custom field setup, you could see what I'm talking about with the different options for you. We have all these conditionals and values and things that you can plug in, and we're going to make this a lot more visual, so you can select an operation and base your fields that you're creating on, like I said, either existing fields or other fields or other operations. Right now, this is really pretty raw, and the idea is we want to be able to make this able to handle any of your really crazy ideas that you have, and we'll be able to kind of export and import these into other races once they're set up. So a lot of times we don't see people really spending a lot of time here. We see you getting these set up, or we're setting them up in the back end and shipping out a bunch of default computed fields. And then if you absolutely need to, you might go in and edit one, or if you're getting really ambitious, you might try and roll out one of your own. But we don't really see people playing around with this area too much.
What's kind of interesting about this is that all of these parameters actually get saved as JSON files and therefore become shareable. And what Matt referred to is, like, if you come up with some sort of a set of custom fields and some set of algorithms about scoring those custom fields, all of that is going to be shareable. And one of the things we're going to be putting out there is kind of a forum to be able to share those different scoring algorithms. How it will look eventually in this product is that there will be things like wizards, and you'll choose different types, race types. So in my example earlier, that predicted time race, there's probably going to be an option at a very high level where you're going to say, I want to score a predicted time race. And you won't have to worry about these computed fields or anything. Just all the reports and everything will kind of work automatically. But if you want to go and customize it, you'll be able to go down into here and make your own special customized types of compute fields. So you could do things like, if you overestimated, there's more of a penalty to your predicted time race than if you underestimated.
Right. So the name of the game here is we really want to make this template driven. So you can go in and pick a template that you use a lot, apply it to your race, and then you're good to go. Now, like Bob said, your predicted time race by your company might use a different kind of algorithm than other ones do. So you might customize it once, but when you save that template, you're going to be having that applied to all of your races down the road much easier instead of having to go in and change it for each and every single one. But like I said, this in the back end here is really just to make it so that we're able to handle almost every single possible thing that happens. All right, the next item on the list is the participants. So right now we have it, so you can just search through participants quickly and easily, bib, name, first name and last name, and you can click into the name itself, and you can edit any of the values here. This is automatically syncing on both ends, so to your scoring data and to your registration provider. You can adjust the bib and the chip right down here. You don't need to, if you need to adjust someone's bib number, like in Race Director, you'd have to transfer it to a new bib number and then change it, which is a little bit cumbersome. And here you can just change it right away. We do show results for participants here, and what that does is it'll give you their ranking in any listings they're a part of, and it will give you chip reads that they've had on any number of the timing locations in your race. Other fields is where we kind of host things like the event, as well as any fields that you're bringing in from your registration provider. Scoring is what holds the listings and listing templates that I was talking about a little bit earlier. Listings generate standings for a certain category, a subset of participants in an event. So for example, overall, males, females, male 19 and under, male 19 and under without double dipping are all different listings. Listings can be used to generate reports later, which can be published in many different ways. Listing templates are a way to define how listings should be created and what configuration they need. So for instance, you might want all of your age groups to allow double dipping, or you might want to not allow double dipping, or you might have some really crazy double dipping rules that you need to generate. So right now what we have is we just are importing this JSON file, which is some code that tells RaceDay Scoring how to set everything up. And right now what we have are 3 buttons here that have standard listing templates that we've created. As we go forward, what we're going to do is kind of open up this so you can add more options to it, but also give you a wizard so you can design your own listing templates so that you don't have to use a standard one and you don't have to go in and actually edit code for it. So if you wanted to play around with it right now, we actually give this download current template option, which if you are you want to go in and play around, you can download this template and try and re-import it to make a new one if you want to have some fun and learn JSON. So if you click in any of these listings, it'll just give you a basic report of that listing and the standings for it. These are based on events, so you have to have there's a drop down here. So basically for each event in your race, you could have different listing types. So your 10K might want double dipping, but your 5K might not want double dipping. So that way you can parse out your information correctly. And then if you're viewing a single listing here, you can click on this drop down to select a different listing from there. So eventually you won't be viewing this page very much. We're thinking that you'll be mostly viewing reports on the fly or the race or the live dashboard instead of going in and viewing the actual raw listings themselves. So like I had said, right now these have to be handmade, but by the beta we'll have tools to create them as well as default ones set up for certain types of races.
And again, those listings will all be shareable as part of the community. So, you know, if you have some sort of a wacky cross-country race where you take the first runner in the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior race or something like that, you know, that is a scoring mechanism that would be able to be used by others if you wanted to share.
All right, next section and the last one on the list is reporting. So what reports do is they will display or save a listing or a combination of listings in the future to different file formats, or it can upload it to the API for results or many different things. So right now we have the ability to do a view, which just gives you a table view inside the app, HTML output, a CSV output, or a TXT output. Right now those are not very configurable. In the future we will give you some configuration For instance, your HTML, you might want to change the colors, you might want to apply a theme to it, things like that. You might need to have some weird CSV type, or you might need a different delimiter, and we'll provide those options as we run into the needs from you guys. In this, you can edit, duplicate, or delete a single report, and you can manage report tags and filters on them. So I'll just show you really quick. It's a little bit easier if I show you. Oops. So in the reporting section, I have a bunch that I've added in here. If you add a new report, you can do, you can name it, and then you can add it to a category. So if you have existing categories, you can type it in here, and you can have a single report be a part of multiple categories. And that just makes viewing them a little bit easier. We have a filter at the top that you can separate out your reports based on what category they're in. When you generate a report, we have this base listing, which is saying what data is being displayed in this report. So most of the time you're using just an overall, but you might want to say, I want to base this report just in the male, so you could do that. Obviously, we have a ton of different listings here because I have all of these age groups I created, and I say that the winners are separate from the age group, so I have a lot of different options. We have a filter to say when you want to start it and when you want to finish it. So how deep should I go in this listing? Should I just report 20? Should I report 50? If you leave it at blank, it means it's going to report everything. We have some basic columns that you can add just by clicking these buttons. And then columns from listings. So these are the, this is the data that's driven from the listing. So things like placement in a certain listing. You can also just add a column manually. Name it, select the alignment, select what field type. We have a couple of different options here, and select what field you want to include. So again, a bunch of different options here. We also have some field transformations. Honestly, these are only to be used for times if you need to change the format of a time. We do allow you to remove and reorder columns now, which we didn't before, which makes it a little bit easier to use this. So you can just quickly change the order this way instead of having to start a whole new report if one of your columns was in the wrong place. So let's show you quick. Things like view will look like this. Again, the downloading, pretty straightforward. Duplicating sets it up for you, and then you can save it. But altogether pretty straightforward. And that's what I've got for the presentation today. There's still a lot of work to be done, but it's pretty incredible what we've been able to build so far, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So keep up to date with all of our progress. You can go to RaceDayScoring.blog. This is where we put all of our release notes out. We also have a forum on there you guys can use to talk about anything you want to in regards to RaceDay Scoring. If you're starting to use it in the field and you want to get some advice from others. Right now it's not very well used. No one's really using it because not too many people are using the software in the field yet, which is to be understood. But in the future, we're hoping this gets a little bit more action. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. My name is Avery. It's Avery@RunSignUp.com for any further questions. If anyone quick wants to shoot me anything, we've got some time still. So you can just use this chat in the bottom right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar to send me a note. Otherwise, if I don't hear anything, I'm just going to close this down. We will be sending out a recording of this webinar along with my slides. So we'll be sending that out in a follow-up email in about a day or two. All right, guys, sounds like no one's got any questions right now, so we're going to be
I'm glad everybody understands everything.
Yeah.
There will be a test.
All right, guys. Thanks again. Hopefully you enjoyed this and learned something. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Click on attendees so see who's attending.
All right, actually, looks like there were some questions, guys. Sorry about that. I was looking in the chat, not the questions. Scott Cranfill is asking about the ETA on protocol, and I think James was pretty close. He said, I don't know what his workload's like.
He was in Florida, so he got delayed by some trees falling in his yard and water in his basement and stuff. And he's also working on the Apple Watch integration for the for RaceJoy. So I'm guessing like 2 to 4 weeks is the ETA for the protocol.
Okay. So how do you set gun start times? Ken was asking. That's all done in the event setup. So if you go in to your scored events, you can set your actual start time. And that's where you do the gun times. Eventually, we're going to have a way to do that on the dashboard as well. So you can just enter in any number of gun times for each event you have. Someone's asking if this was a replacement for the race director. The answer is yes, but not for another 5 or so years.
Yeah.
We're going to keep race director around for a while. The idea is that this is eventually going to eclipse it in a few years. We're not going to be able to have every single feature that race director has right now and have it be done in RaceDay Scoring when we release it.
Yeah, this is a product will be released early in 2018, and we expect that people will be able to use it in production at that point in time. But we expect race director users to kind of run it in parallel and to probably use it for races that it works well for initially. And then, you know, it'll get better and better as we get more feedback from you, and then you'll start to like it more and more than race director, and then you'll start to use it. But we want to make that migration very gradual. There's no rush on that from our point of view. So Roger's going to be around for a while. He'll be continuing to update his Fox Pro code. So.
Is there or will there be a way to add one runner to more than one team? There shouldn't be a problem with that, with the way that we've structured our database. So that should work, no problem. CC says thank you.
You're welcome.
I.e. double dipping. That's about in reference to the adding one runner to more than one team. Oh, I see what she's saying, because she's probably talking about like standard cross-country scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be fine. Can we get a preview of the protocol format? Not yet, Scott. All right, and that's it. Thanks again, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.